All right, well, welcome to the February 12th Planning Commission meeting. Glad to see a lot of audience members in place. I'm sure some applicants as well. So with that, Joe, you want to start us off with roll call?
Mike Armstrong. Here. Van Crafton. Here. Carl Eaglin. Here. Rick Ferris.
Here.
Zach Laughlin.
Here.
Jerry Ralston. Joel Storm. Patrick Tevnaugh.
Here.
Josh Wilbur.
Here. All right, the minutes for the January meeting were sent out to everyone. Is there any questions, concerns? And if not, I'll accept a motion to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, new applications for tonight. How this will work, I'll read the number of the application, and the applicant or applicants can come up to the podium. When you do, please state your name and address for us. At that point in time, we'll ask Joe if there's any other further information beyond what the application has been read as, if there's anything more there, and then we'll give you a chance to add anything more that you might have for us to know about it. And then there'll be some questions from us for you, and then maybe any from the audience after that. All right, our first application is PCAF-24-1, James and Suzanne Capps. Application to amend final plat so as to remove an approximate 1,595 square foot section from 1132 West 2nd Street, parcel 39-08-34-334-093.000-007 with the intention to combine this section with 1128 West 2nd Street, parcel 39-08-334-092.000-007. Location is 1128 and 1132 West 2nd Street, zoned medium density residential R8. Do we have an applicant or applicants for this one? Good, just state your name and address for me.
Jim Capps, 1471 Hillbridge Road, Utica, Kentucky.
All right, thank you. Joe, is there anything more on this application we need to know other than? Okay. And James, is there anything that we should need to consider other than what we read there that you're trying to accomplish for us?
I think it's pretty simple. We're just trying to purchase that tract of land and consolidate it into our lot.
And consolidate into one lot?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Any questions from the board?
Is this going to be your residence or rental property, or have you not decided yet?
It'll be our second home.
Second
It won't be rental property.
And if you're in Utica, Kentucky, it'll probably become your first home eventually, right? So,
Yeah.
no, just kidding. Just kidding.
Good possibility.
So, any other questions from the board? Any questions, comments from the audience?
Have you already had it surveyed? I'm sorry. It's already been surveyed?
Yes, it has been.
Okay, I just didn't see the stakes down there. Thank you.
Other questions? Again, any comments from the audience on this? All right, hearing none, accept a motion.
I'll make a motion we approve the application PCAF-24-1.
I'll second the motion.
Joe?
Mike Armstrong.
Yes.
Van Crafton.
Yes.
Carl Eaglin.
Yes.
Rick Ferris.
Yes.
Zach Laughlin.
Yes.
Patrick Tevnaugh.
Yes.
Josh Wilbur.
Yes. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, our next application is PCGB-24-1, Lisa Perry, application for general business setbacks. Applicant plans to open office space for the Choices for Women Resource Center. Applicant is requesting setbacks of 6 feet on the north lot line, 23 7/10 feet on the east lot line, 25 feet on the south lot line, and 25 feet on the west lot line. Location 118 Holt Drive, zoned general business. Anything else, Joe, for us to know? You want
Hello.
to state your name and address for us?
Yes, my name is Lisa Perry, 220 Clifty Drive, Suite H, for Life Choices Clinic in Madison, Indiana.
All right, thank you, Lisa. Is there anything more with setbacks that you think we should consider
No,
Is it
we did
pretty-
a preliminary architect drawing for this property, because, the, owners that we just purchased it from are directly next to us. So we had this drawn up so that we could be sure that we gave enough space to our neighbor. In the drawing, I didn't make that specific, so we did switch the 25 feet to the west side so that that would be our neighbor, and then the 23 feet approximately would be on the east side, which is our property.
Okay.
So it's opposite in the drawing than it is the way I wrote up the
All right.
the setbacks. Other than that, note, this is our, this is hopeful for an office. We pay approximately $1,500 in rent, in our current location at Village Square Shopping, and this gives us an opportunity to own our own space and actually decrease our budget.
Any other questions from the board? Any questions, comments from the audience? All right, hearing none. Accept a motion on the first application.
I move to approve, application PCGB 24-1 for 18 setbacks at 118 Holt Drive.
Second.
Joe?
Mike Armstrong,
Yes.
Van Crafton,
Yes.
Carl Eaglin,
Yes.
Rick Ferris,
Yes.
Zach Laughlin,
Yes.
Patrick Devnall,
Yes.
Josh Wilbur.
Yes. All right, the next application, Lisa, you can stay up here, is PCAP 24-2, Lisa Perry. Application for accessible parking plan. Applicant plans to open office space for the Choices for Women Resource Center. Applicant is required to provide 5 total parking stalls with 1 ADA parking stall, and plans to provide a total of 18 parking stalls with 2 ADA parking stalls. Location 118 Holt Drive, zone general business. Pretty straightforward, Joe. Anything more than that? I assume it's staying the same, what I just read?
Yes, it's staying the same.
Okay.
We have plans to develop that property to the east, and we decided to go ahead with the parking lot all the way across the front. So hopefully in the future, we can join those parking lots if we'd
Okay.
like to.
And you will have this marked to where, like, if you have a van with a wheelchair, you'll be able to access from the side.
Yes, we're planning to do asphalt, parking lot, and we will have those 2 stalls where the picture shows in the front. There will be a porch, so it will have a ramp there in the middle for accessibility.
Very good, thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
I would just add, make sure you talk to Joe
Okay.
about the, required size of parking spaces.
Yes, our architect had put that in at 10 feet, and Joe and I talked about that it needed to be at least 12. And so we'll make an adjustment on that, the size of the parking spaces to accommodate the city's plan. Yes. And we had 18 spaces with the 10-foot, so we had plenty of room with the required 5 to make that adjustment on the spots.
Other questions? Questions, comments from the audience? All right, hearing none, accept a motion.
I make a motion, we approve, PCAP -24-2 for Lisa Perry. I'll second.
Joe?
Mike Armstrong,
Yes.
Van Crafton,
Yes.
Carl Eaglin,
Yes.
Rick Ferris,
Yes.
Zach Laughlin,
Yes.
Patrick Devnall,
Yes.
Josh Wilbur.
Yes. Thank you,
All
Lisa,
right, thank you,
appreciate it.
gentlemen. Thank you, Joe. You're great to work with.
All right, our next application is PCGB 24-2. It's Winterwood Development. It's application for general business setbacks. Applicant plans to build a multi-phase affordable multi-family housing complex. Applicant is requesting setbacks of 10 feet on the north lot line, 30 feet on the east lot line, 30 feet on the south lot line, and 10 feet on the west lot line. This is location 2536 Michigan Road, zoned general business. Joe, anything else beyond that for the setbacks? Okay. Can you state your name and address for us?
Sure, good evening. My name is Gabe Fritz, and I'm the Director of Development for Winterwood, and our office address is 1390 Olivia Lane, Suite 100, Lexington, Kentucky.
All right, thank you, Gabe. Is there anything more on the setbacks that we should be considering? Pretty straightforward on setbacks, but,
Yes, sir.
okay. Questions from the board on this? Setbacks. I would say that, I've looked at your drawings, and looks like you got 30 feet, obviously the south side, which you also have a retention pond or a basin there for the water. I think, there's been some concern, I think, with, neighbors and so forth about the runoff of water, right? So I assume you're gonna have a lot of the water running towards that retention pond from this development, is that correct? Is that the idea?
All of it.
All of it, okay, all right. So there shouldn't be really any watershed going basically to the, east side of the property then?
No, to my understanding, that retention basin was constructed not only to hold the runoff from the apartments, but also the retail space above it.
And then I also understand you're putting a privacy fence around the property, a wooden privacy fence, is that correct?
Yes, sir, it's indicated on the drawing.
Yeah.
Help me with the direction.
Yeah, it's all right.
But-
So I'm thinking, you got a privacy fence, it looks like certainly on the east side, east property line, which would be bordering a lot of like the Miles Ridge area and
It,
believe the
that
front-
privacy fence
Yeah.
extends the entire length of that property.
property, yeah. And do you know how tall the privacy fence is gonna be?
I don't think it's indicated on this.
It's not.
Drawing. It'd be a 6-foot wooden
Okay,
privacy fence.
6 foot, okay.
You can do this in phase 1 and 2. Will the privacy fence go up during phase 1?
Yes, it certainly can.
Okay. So I know for our board, what we are considering for planning commission really is the setbacks. I know some of obviously the details of this will get talked about at the BZ meeting later this evening. So what we are considering, just so the board is understanding, that this is just really for setbacks. And so the audience knows that our commission is looking at setbacks from the actual buildings and the properties. So, are there any other questions from the board on setbacks? Any questions, concerns from the audience? Yeah, come on up. Yes,
My name's Dave Caldwell. I live at 225 Miles Ridge.
Okay.
And I'm interested in the setbacks. That's
Okay.
why I'm here.
Good.
You've got a little presentation there. We're not gonna go through all of it,
Yes.
so don't worry. But if you turn to, page 6, you'll see a picture that has the setbacks on it. And I'm just gonna talk briefly about what's probably not so good for our neighborhood based on that picture. So, we recently, reached out, and a realtor's advised us that if we go forward with the plan as it's in the planning office, the one that's shown, it could materially impact our property, and of course, it probably would our neighbors as well. But here's why. Basically, we're downhill. You see the blue says no screen there? That's us, that's our property, and then that's the Sullys, Glenna, right above us to the north, and then further up is our new neighbors who we just met recently, and then, I don't know his name, but I know who he is, so just really looking at these properties over on the east. So what I did was I tried to locate the buildings, something I don't think's, at least I've never seen done, is locate the buildings on the plot, which show where they're actually gonna go. So what you see there if you look down my property line, I won't have any trees with a 30-foot offset because they'll need to cut them down to build the grade. And, my neighbors are gonna lose a fair amount of their trees. And, obviously that's not the best thing for us. So, I'd like to show you just one more picture. If you go over to page 8, this photo shows, on the right, it shows back behind my shed where we thought that the buildings would start. And then when I got to laying them out, and I could be wrong, in fact, I hope I am wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm not, just based on this plot of where the buildings actually be. So really, it turns out, if you look in the picture on the left, you'll see a line that shows down there my property line. And then you'll see some trees that we've already planted, about $11,000 worth. You'll see a couple of trees that the city's already planted, and we're thankful for that. On the left, it looks to me like that building, from where it's pointing to me right there, is probably gonna go another 20 or 30 feet to the left, and then many feet on up to the right. So all those trees will probably go, and the trees on the left will probably go. So with that, really two issues, really, when you're thinking about the setback. One is the ground level screening, and then two is really the upper story. As far as the ground level goes, there's a lot of good stuff in the plan, it looks like. Well, there's some stuff in the plan. We think that the developer should leave as many existing mature trees as possible, install an effective ground level screen, and limit the foot traffic across the neighboring yards. Now, the problem is, and we've seen this because we saw it with the retention pond, we really don't have any control over what a guy with a bulldozer goes and does. He's out there driving around, so we don't have any control over what's going to be left. We don't really have any control about what gets planted, because it may or may not be in the budget, and certainly it may not, in my lifetime, grow to where I don't see the apartments anymore. And the fencing, it will meet the objectives of stopping people from walking through, perhaps, depending on where it ends, but it won't meet the objective of viewing, blocking out screening at the ground level, because I live on the downhill, so if you run a fence downhill, I can see right over that. So anyway, the main issue here is really the upper story setbacks, and you all get to decide what that is, and we thank you for your opportunity to show you or tell you about our story. And of course, in the zoning, it says adjacent uses should also be considered so as to not locate a noisy use next to a quiet one or similar misfortune. Now, for me, because I'm downhill looking up at a 3-story building in what I thought was my backyard, that's a misfortune. So hopefully we can do something about that today. Page 12, it just gives you another way to look at it. There's a book written by a professor, I guess, somebody, a planner. Basically, he recommends that when you consider what an upper story setback should be, is you strike an 80-foot arc from the center of a yard where an activity might occur, and then that gives you some rationale for, as you go up in stories, 45-degree angle, you can see what you need to cover. In other words, if you leave tall trees, you can live with a small setback. But if you cut out all the trees and just plant new standard perimeter landscape, no mature trees that will cover it all out, then you're going to need a larger setback, or we'll just be looking at the building all the time, and they'll look at us. So, and in our case, we would like to use our backyard. We do take a lot of wildlife photos and stuff. So over on page 13, real question is this: how can we reasonably determine a building setback to protect all these things, privacy, light pollution, sunlight, and our views, if we don't know what the height of the grade is, the height and location of the buildings are, whether or not they have balconies and windows facing east, us, or south, whether or not existing mature trees are going to be removed, and whether new screenings will be done sufficiently, that kind of thing. So basically, trying to finish up here, as we don't know these things, here's what I'm asking for, and I really haven't had a chance to talk to my other neighbors, so they can tell you what they think. A proposal providing some protection of the remaining trees facing our backyard and those of our neighbors would be to require a 30-foot green space. So let's just leave those trees that are in the 30-foot cut zone right now, and then add any necessary footage you need to create the grade, build the building. So we're not saying don't build the building. We're not arguing about any of that. What we're really saying is I won't live long enough to see those trees grow up over that 3-story building in the back of my Miles Ridge house. So that's what we're really asking for. If we can't get that, one other alternative on page 15 is have a independent site planner come out, take a look at it, and identify the height and the location, and determine the adequate green buffer zone. How much do we really need to keep? And identify where mature plantings are needed, and determine a reasonable offset. And then the last thing I'd like to ask you for is, if possible, this is a 2-phase project. So no trees be removed other than those you absolutely have to take on phase one, because if phase two doesn't happen, I can't put those trees back. So, and I realize that may not be reasonable if you have to create a grade, but it's worth asking. And finally, in conclusion, just to let you know, I mean, we do really care about our neighborhood, and we've tried to be involved in this. We've talked to city officials, we've sent our suggestions, we've written, and asked to be kept in the loop. This was kind of a shock to us. We had no idea Winterwood was going forward till we got your note, so thank you for the opportunity. We want to be good neighbors, we want to stay involved, but we can't do that if we're in the dark. So we definitely going forward, if this does go forward, like to be a part of the process, not a part of the problem. So we'd like to figure out a way that community can be informed, milestones, is the, the protections that you're providing the neighbors effective, that sort of thing. We respect the rights of private property owners to use their property within the bounds of the city ordinances. We had expected a covenant-protected subdivision would be our protection. Turns out that's not the case, so my bad. So we're asking you, the Planning Commission, to help us protect ourselves from what is coming by taking appropriate steps. That is, including a mature green zone for the largest apartment development on the hilltop. Now, we don't think that's too much to ask for putting that in our backyard. We encourage you to imagine it was your own yard and what you'd want done. And thank you for your consideration. Happy to take your questions. And I do have, you mentioned drainage issues in Miles Ridge, or drainage issues from the Plaza property. We do have an addendum. I think Joe can email you, or we can give you.
I mean, it doesn't fall under our purview. I knew it was a comment you had made, so I thought we could,
Thank you.
at least address part of it, so, yeah.
Yeah, I wish I could have got all this to you earlier, but.
It's fine. It's fine. No. I appreciate you sending it. I got to look at it today because I just got it, and, so, appreciate your comments. I think with this, obviously setbacks for us, we look at it's from the property line. So wherever the property line is, the setback begins from that. So that's
Right.
that's how we have to determine setbacks. Now within what's in that setback, doesn't usually fall under our purview. We can't tell them what they can do and what they can't do within that, as long as the building doesn't come any closer than what they said that setback's supposed to be from.
Okay.
Now, what we can do is, I don't know if Tony or, the developer can answer the question on, what might or might not happen with the trees that are in that 30-foot zone. Do you have any, can you come up and maybe comment on that to his question? Okay.
Absolutely.
Dave Fritz, yes, sir. Dave Lynch, Mr. Caldwell. Yes, sir. It's a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for coming this evening, Mr. Caldwell. I feel rude addressing them and then having my back to you, so I'm gonna try
There you go.
to bend this thing around a little bit. So you are correct, and this is a phase development. So the second phase, I believe on your drawing, has dark hatch
Yes.
marks. So I don't think that we will have a problem putting that fence up in the first phase. That's something that we talked about tonight and can agree to. We haven't even finished all of the construction drawings. I don't know how far back we're gonna have to go to clear to make the pads for the first 5 buildings. We're not gonna do any more than we have to do. There's no, from a cost perspective, there's no reason for us to do anything that we don't have to do, and it just doesn't work, it doesn't make sense. That's not serving the first phase. Having said that, I don't have the full construction document, so I don't know what the limit of clearing is. I would not anticipate that we would have to clear the entire site in every direction for the first phase. That's. Yes, sir, understood, but that's the most succinct answer that I can provide in terms of that clearing. Now, the question was really, I think, for phase 2, what would happen in the 30-foot setback?
Yeah, that 30-foot kind of, setback section, right?
Right, so and without the benefit of a photograph and a tree survey, I'm not really sure what's there. Okay, that would be, well, and I could probably pull it up on Google Maps, but to answer the question succinctly, I don't.
See, this is with the 30-foot offset right here. These are the properties, my property, the neighbor's property.
And so this is the area right here.
Yeah, that's the
Okay.
30-foot, and that's the trees, and those the buildings. So, see, I've got no trees left, if I was getting Unless they need it. Naked.
Gotcha.
Neighbors are gonna be naked too, because you're gonna have to take, I mean, the guy with the bulldozer, when he's not there, my friend, he may just go right on over.
Yes, sir, and I think that would be my response, is that to get that building, the building's gonna start plus or minus at 30 feet from the property line. In order to get in there and to install the foundations and all the earthwork, I can't imagine that they wouldn't be disturbing in that area to
Some
a
of that,
degree,
yeah.
some of the trees.
Why, for your
Right.
information, that's why we asked for 50, because
That's why you asked for what, I'm sorry?
we asked for 50-foot setback.
50-foot setbacks, oh,
30
okay.
plus 20 is 50,
Yeah.
so we're saying, give us another 20 feet, at least keep 20 trees, 20-foot trees or whatever you can. So that's really what we've asked for on the east side, because honestly, if you're gonna build a building, you just got 30 feet and you got a set of grade, you're probably gonna have to cut out a bunch of that stuff. Or you won't even have any control over it, because the guy operating the equipment's gonna do it that day, you won't be there.
Yes, sir. Just, if I may, is it okay if I just respond to that request, or?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay,
Sorry.
it's a very constrained site, and I just don't, we're here to talk about this and parking, and so
Right.
if we've really maximized the parking in the building location, and I think we made the setback mathematically as large as we could to fit everything in that we need, and so I think it would be very difficult to extend that. And for what it's worth, I'm not sure, just one other thing, if I may add, Mr. Caldwell, I'm not sure which drawing you're referring to, but if it would be helpful at all, just generally speaking, these are 3-story garden-style apartment buildings, and so typically we have 8-foot ceilings. We're gonna have another 18 or 24 inches for the floor truss and then ultimately the roof truss. So the face of the building up to the eaves is gonna be probably 32 feet. That's about the height. So I'm not sure what math or geometry you guys were looking at over there, but just to give you an idea, we're 30 feet back and it'll be a height that's about commensurate with that setback distance,
Okay.
if that's helpful at all.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Do we have any other comments from audience members? Come on up, Celeste. Just make sure you state your name and address for me.
Oh, I will, Josh.
I know.
My name is Celeste Dewey, and I live at 2626 Franks Drive. And I'm sorry, I got back from vacation late last night to this going on, so apologies, I did not expect to speak. But I guess my concerns have been all along is that it is a rent-controlled building. That worries me. I don't understand why market values can't dictate how much the apartments are gonna be. That really does worry me, and I've understood from the beginning, that's what I was told by the mayor a long time ago, so I don't know if that's, of course, we haven't been really involved, so I don't know if that's transpired or anything or changed. And my question is still, how can that not affect my home value? And I'm glad you're putting up a fence. I don't feel a 6-foot fence isn't enough, but anyway, but at least that will help the walking traffic through my yard, and I appreciate that. I am concerned because my elderly mother lives in my house. Like, we put an addition on the back of the house within our house, so it's still one dwelling. But I am worried about people looking in her house, elderly people. She can barely get her blinds up and down, and she needs her blinds up for her artwork, and that's very serious for her. Anyway, and then, I guess those are some of my concerns. Just, I guess off the top of my head, I just am really worried about those things. And I agree with all they said. I'm worried because even trees like, those pine trees are very nice, but mine have all fallen down out of my yard. I think our weather's getting too hot to sustain pines. And so I don't know, but a strong wind has taken out. I've had at least 6.5 huge, beautiful pines in my yard fall over the years since I've been there in 2008. So anyway, I thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Celeste. Appreciate it. Any other comments? Any other questions from the board before we? Take this up? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you coming up. Can you state your name and address for us, please?
My name is Ann Powell. Our address is 2361 Sunset Court.
Okay.
And this specifically doesn't have an issue with us at this time because it has already happened to us. We formerly had a wonderful woods. We had 2 grandchildren. It was one reason we bought the house. We came to Indiana from Kentucky. And we had a woods in the back. We had deer. The deer had their babies behind our house in the woods. And we fed them. We had a deer feeder. And Mr. Steinhardt did ask them to leave that one tree that had the deer feeder. And we have it, and he has graciously provided 3 deciduous trees for us and a grouping of evergreens to help block. Our view is now the back of Coles and the sewer system. And it has a small chain link fence around it. From our deck at the back of the house, those evergreens will grow, hopefully 30 to 40 feet tall, but at this time, I won't see that in my lifetime. So our view now is the back of Coles. We can see Holiday Inn, or the Holiday Inn Express. Our view is the street where all of the semi-trucks come in and unload. When they took our woods down behind us, they did that after dark. And it was gone. We had squirrels, rabbits, I think some foxes. It was on the easement property, but we did not think it would all be taken down. The reason I'm here is what's coming for these people has already come for us. And Mr. Steinhardt has been helpful and gracious, but it is not a pleasant process. And the gentleman was talking about the view and a 3-story building. I know what we have. We have a basement, a main floor, and an upstairs. And on our main floor where we live, basement 2. But that view, it is not pleasant. I think it's wonderful that we have the development, but I'm just saying it's already happened to us. Think about this, because these people, it's coming to them. And like he said, when the bulldozers come through, they take a lot. They take more than you ever think they're going to take. So it would be nice if, I don't know if you all have been there to see the situation, but something to think about.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you for listening.
Thank you.
We would be happy to host you if you'd like to come out.
Tony Steinhardt, Director of Economic and Redevelopment. I just wanted to address a couple of the comments that were made, just to clarify a few things. One, these units are not rent controlled. The rents are set at or close to market rents, and so we've stated that since this project's begun. It's not Section 8 and it's not rent controlled. Most units will be at 80% of AMI, adjusted median income in the community. To qualify, that's about $44,000 to $45,000 in terms of salary. So I want to be clear about that. This is the first housing development in 30 years. It is
a very large, development on our hilltop. It is a much-needed development within our community. As you know, we are currently 3,000 units short within our community, and so this is a very important piece for economic development and attraction of talent, as well as providing those workers a place to live. I would just also say about the setbacks and the Caldwells and the other folks who've spoken, we've tried to work really hard to mitigate as much as we can. Unfortunately, this was several acre property of undeveloped land in central Madison that ultimately now is changing use. And we've tried and worked with them to mitigate that. Many of the drainage issues will be addressed, if not all of them. And we have tried to work with them on landscaping. Unfortunately, a couple of the property owners, they had encroached back into the property over the years, as any of us did. I had a piece of property where I grew up that we kept cutting grass and taking out the brush, and for long, nobody cared because it wasn't a developed property. So, we're trying really hard to work with them and mitigate as much as we can, but, a 12-foot or 15-foot tree is gonna take a while to grow back. So, but we are trying, but it's an important project for the community. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Tony. Anyone else? Any other comments from the board? Nope. Hi.
Jennifer Sholey. I'm talking for my mom, Glenna Solly.
Can you state address for us too, please? I'm sorry.
Her address is 2624 Franks Drive. My address is 1 Cobblestone Way on the golf course. I wrote this today. I'm here to speak on her behalf. I'm terrible at speaking, and I apologize. She has resided in Madison for 88 years, and most of which has been in that home. And what I'm seeing is we will no longer have the home that we grew up in. And Mom and Dad has seen so many improvements along the way. However, this one we are not seeing. We are seeing that our views will be obstructed. We will no longer have wildlife in our area. We will have what I estimate about 1,000 people, new neighbors, within a very, very short span of time. I grew up there. I played there. It's a beautiful area. I love what you're doing with the water feature. However, I think we need to really think and look at the property that is there now and what is going to be in about a year. This is going to look very different. And I know, and I can speak for my neighbors, my mom's neighbors, we're all very upset about this. And we would love to have you come and look at what we see every day, and then take the map and translate that into what we will be living. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? So, again, for us, and I can, and I appreciate everybody's comments. What we have to consider tonight's a setback, and it's purely the setback from the property line, which, is certainly in the ordinances, and those are, kind of black and white with this. What gets kind of put in between that, I hope continues to get talked about in that 30-foot space of what they're doing, assuming it does get passed, or maybe it doesn't, who knows. But I do hope it continues to get talked about, kind of what is there. But again, for us, what we have to look at is the setbacks that they've asked for with that. So just so you know what we're considering for what's being considered tonight, right, with this. So with that, I'll accept the motion. The board.
Well, knowing that the city will try to work with the neighbors, with the trees and the vegetation, whatever you need with the fencing, there's already some work going in that area. The city's been cooperating, I know with Tony especially going up application for PCGB -24-2.
Second that motion. Joe?
Mike Armstrong,
Yes.
Van Crafton,
Yes.
Carl Eaglin,
Yes.
Rick Ferris,
Yes.
Zach Laughlin,
Yes.
Patrick Tevenall,
Yes.
Josh Wilbur.
Yes. The second part for, again, Winterwood Developments, PCAP -24-3. This is an application for accessible parking plan. Applicant plans to build a multi-phase affordable multifamily housing complex consisting of a total of 192 apartments. Applicant is required to provide 384 total parking stalls with 8 ADA parking stalls and plans to provide a total of 282 parking stalls with 18 ADA parking stalls over the 2 phases of the construction. A variance from development standards is required and has been requested for the entire project for a total number of parking stalls less than the minimum required of 2 parking stalls per dwelling unit per section 9.00 of the zoning ordinance. Location is 2536 Michigan Road, zoned general business. You want to come on back up for us, Joe, anything further on this? I do have a question for you. So, I saw that, obviously you guys have applied for a variance, which the BZA will have to consider with having less parking spaces. But with your ADA parking spots with both phases, it looked like you had 22 of them. Is that the plan, is to continue to go forward with 22 of them? Because on this, it actually says 18, but I was looking at your plan and it had more than that. Let me look again here, because I counted it like 5 times, but maybe I got it wrong too.
Sure, so I know that we did enhance the number of ADA parking spaces beyond the minimum, but I'm referring to the project architect because
No, it's 20, sorry. I got 20, not 22, but 20. So it's still 2 more than, what's in the application. Is that what you're planning to do with both phases? Because there's 2 more in phase 2, that's why. If you look on there, you got phase 2 has 2 more. Your phase 1 has the 18. That may be what you were possibly thinking initially. Can you come on up? Yeah.
My
You're
name is
fine.
Stephen Kersey. I'm an architect for Winterwood,
Okay.
And I have a farm here in Madison County as well. I live at 9307 West 1000 North, Comiskey 47227. So, we have pledged to the Indiana Housing Finance Agency to provide more accessible units than the code requires. So that's why we're having more accessible apartment and more accessible parking in phase 1. That we may be required to do a similar situation in phase 2, but we haven't made that application yet. So what you see on the plan is what we request for phase 1 and phase 2, but we may come back to you with a variance later on if our accessible apartment count creeps up higher. So what we're trying to do is have at least 1 parking space for every apartment that's accessible, and 2 parking spaces that are accessible, 1 van, 1 regular, for the office space.
Okay.
Okay, does that help?
It does. I assume though, with your 192 apartments, that's total both phases?
That's total both?
Yeah, that's why I wanted to
Yes, sir.
make sure when I was looking at it, then totaling both phases with the
Yes,
parking
sir,
lots.
that's correct.
But you're obviously you're well above what's required.
That's exactly right.
So,
On the handicap side,
Yeah.
we're way over the minimum requirement.
Okay, I just wanted to ensure that we
Yes,
got
sir.
everything correct.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you very much.
Can you tell us the size of the parking spaces?
The typical size is 9 by 18 for a standard parking stall. Of course, accessible parking is slightly different, 12 feet wide, 5-foot aisles for vans and so on. So they vary depending on whether they're accessible, van accessible, or standard stalls. what we find, and we do an awful lot of transportation work, is that a 9x18 parking stall is pretty much standard across the entire country. So that's why, and, 9 feet wide, you get a few more spaces on the same amount of real estate than a 10-foot wide space. So it works everywhere else, and that's why we've made that application.
And so your looks like you got 3 van accessible ones. Those are the ones that are gonna be 10 feet.
They're gonna be 12 feet,
12
I
feet, okay.
believe.
Okay.
I can't quite read the parking tabulation on there, and we put it in our application as well. The stall
Yeah,
size.
that's fine. I think it's, yeah, you did. So it's 9 feet by 18 feet
That's
on the standard parking stall size,
Yes,
yes.
sir. Anything else?
Any other questions from the board? Questions, comments from the audience on the parking? All right, hearing none, accept the motion.
I would move to approve PCAP 24-3 for Winterwood Development's application for an accessible parking plan at 2536 Michigan Road.
I'll second
Wait a
that.
second.
And actually, before I finish that motion, I would also add that this approval will be contingent upon the parking variance for the total number of spaces being approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals.
I'll second it now.
Second still, okay. Joe?
Mike Armstrong,
Yes.
Van Crafton,
Yes.
Carl Eaglin,
Yes.
Rick Ferris,
Yes.
Zach Laughlin,
Yes.
Patrick Tevenoff,
Yes.
Josh Wilbur.
Yes. All right, I don't have any other applications on this. So any other new business or old business, Joe, that we need to discuss tonight? Okay.
You gonna miss us?
So Joe, just for the audience, so you know, Joe has submitted his resignation to the city. He'll be with us for another meeting, but he's going to be going to Bloomington. Although I'm an IU fan, that really hurts that they're taking you away from us. But we'll wish you a lot of luck in your future career endeavors. So, all right, with that, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Now the fun begins.